What's different between today and 2008 market crash? It's 55% more cheaper to rent than buy. This is the highest we've had ever. It's 55% cheaper to rent than to buy today. This is not a buying season. This is a renting season, okay? This is what Wall Street Journal, many of these other articles we'll talk about. Okay, meanwhile, the economy's growing. The economy is going up. Dow Jones, oh, it's killing it. Based on 7 companies, Magnificent 7. You know who these Magnificent 7 companies are. NVIDIA, you got these Facebooks, the Amazons, the Apples, these 7 companies that are preventing the company from the market from having a crash. Then while all this stuff is taking place, Powell now is dealing with a war. He's afraid. He wants to raise the rates a quarter, but due to the war that took place in Israel, he doesn't. And then data shows, which is by far the most interesting data to answer your question here, is how much after these 5 situations where we raise the rates multiple times in a span, this being the shortest in the most condensed time frame, how long does it typically save? Is there a formula of when recession comes, if at all? Here's what they realize. Recession usually comes, on average, 11 months after the last month they raise the rates. So what does this mean? If Powell's no longer going to raise the rates, and the last time they raised the rates was September, let's just say August of next year, 3 months before election. That's if it follows the trends of the last 5 times when they raised interest rates. Jamie Dimon says this is the most dangerous times we've had in America in decades. Okay, cool. So if World War III happens, what happens to the economy? Who's going to be the parties involved? Are we going to be involved purely through proxy, or is there going to be attack here? Then you write down the possibilities. Okay, if this happens, what are you going to do? If this happens, what are you going to do? Then next, what happens if unemployment all of a sudden goes to 7%, 6%? What happens if inflation goes down? What happens if Powell starts lowering rates back down to 5%, 4%? Holy shit, that's going to be crazy. What happens? So you got to write all of these different scenarios down. But here's a couple things that we have to be thinking about. And you said, which was fascinating. 1, so credit card debt, highest it's ever been. You know what's the craziest thing about credit card debt being the highest it's ever been? Tom, the average interest rate on credit card is the highest it's ever been. Forget about the debt. So people are worried about the debt. So imagine the interest rates in the last 5 years has gone like this to 23%. Or the average is 23% on credit card. You know what 23% means. That means the debt doubles about 2.5 years.
That's like loan shark.
That's loan shark. 3 years, your debt is doubling, right? But that's what we got right now on credit cards. Okay, so our debt is record breaking. The forgiveness for your school loan is gone. So now you have to start paying for it. That's $300-400 a month that people are expecting, I think, October, November starting. Then let's set that part aside. Go to the corporations you were talking about that are borrowing money. This year, their interest payment on corporation that borrowed money is going to end up being around $530 billion. Just interest.
Oh my God.
Next year, it's going to 730. Next year, it's going to 1.1 trillion. In the next 5 years, it's going between 1.3 to 1.5 trillion dollars just on the corporate debt that we're talking about. By the way, next part. Car payment, A credit, no one's affected. Good credit. They're making the credit payments on time. Mortgages, we're not saying anything crazy with people with bad credit not making payments. We're still good. Car payments in subprime, they're seeing a spike in defaults where people are not making car payments. The first sign you're seeing on what's taking place. No problem. Let's go to the next one. That's the scariest one. U.S. has $33 trillion of debt, worst it's ever been, the highest it's ever been. No problem. What does that really mean? Nobody can really figure it out. Here's what it means. Of the money that we have, about 8 trillion of it, the rates are gonna recalibrate, and we're gonna have to have new rates that we're going. Every single time the rates go up 1 point, just 1 point for the US government, our interest payments increases by $320 billion. So imagine we raise rates by 3 points. Just interest, it's $1 trillion more per year. Then last thing that I'll just kind of get you to be thinking about. So anytime you want to know if the economy is back to normal, go to Vegas. If Vegas is humming, like, okay, we're good. And always, whenever you go to Vegas, talk to cab drivers and talk to the drivers who are doing Uber. Always ask, How's conventions doing? How are you seeing with traffic? Are you noticing things canceling? No, this has been crazy for us the last 3 months. Everything's good. But if they start seeing a downturn, they're typically an indicator of what's to come. Fear is a reverse market crash, which Venezuela just went through, which all of a sudden the rates get lowered and Dow and S&P goes. And Dow goes from 33, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, just goes boom. So the inventory increases the more we print money. The more you print dollars and it's more accessible, the less it's valued, the less it's worth. So these are some things that's going on today. You sit there and you're like, okay, so does this mean guys are not going to make a lot of money? No. You're going to see the first trillionaire in the next 24 months because none of this is going to affect the guys at the top. None of it. This printing money, every time they print money, the guys at the top make more money. If there's anybody that should be against printing money, it's low and middle income families. If there's anybody that should be against printing money, it's them. If there's anybody that's for printing money, guess who it is? The guys at the top. Why? Because the poor and middle America can't keep money. They spend it. And when they spend it, what do they buy? A product owned by somebody in the S&P 500 or other people who have businesses. Money flows up. They can keep printing money all they want. So when low and middle income families are like, look at these guys, all they care about is themselves. Let that bill pass for $2.7 trillion. You simply look at them and you say, you have no clue how money works. You have no idea how money works. Now, guess what? Let's print $10 trillion. Rich are okay with it. You ain't going to get the rich complaining about printing $10 trillion or $5 trillion. BlackRock's going to be like, all right, cool. We're at $8 to $10 trillion of money in our ETFs, and we're buying up a bunch of different companies. We're buying up all these properties today. Right now, it's going to be nothing. But in the next few years, you have to go through us, and we dictate the market, and we're going to own it all. And what are you going to do about it? The idea of middle America not being able to make the money they need to make to be able to afford a house, send their kids to school, live in a nice place, enjoy some of their dreams, maybe not the biggest ones, but some of their dreams are going to become a reality. Middle America is getting smaller and smaller and smaller every single time we print money.